All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're exploring a completely steel-reinforced theological anchor straight out of Psalm 11. For those of us walking as Torah-observant believers, navigating a culture that just feels like it's collapsing around us, it can be incredibly disorienting. You might actually be feeling that exact pressure right now. So this explainer is designed to look at those specific moments when the foundational moral structures of society are under siege, and it's a reminder of how we are called to stand firm under the divine gaze of Elohim.
So where do we actually look for safety when the world literally falls apart? It's a question that hits you right in the chest, doesn't it? There is this visceral fear that just rises up when society's moral structures start failing. When the enemy is moving in the shadows, even well-meaning voices around us start to panic. The pressure builds, and honestly, the immediate, fleshly instinct is to just unpack our bags, abandon the front lines of our covenant walk, and retreat. But we really have to ask ourselves, is geographical flight actually the answer?
Section 1. Panic versus faith. We're going to completely dismantle that fleshly advice. Those panicking advisors who tell believers to just pack up and hide. David begins with an immediate, totally unwavering declaration of his covenant orientation. He says, open quote, "In Yahweh I put my trust. How can you say to my soul, flee as a bird to your mountain?" Close quote. Notice how David outright rejects the survivalist instinct here. He isn't listening to those panicked voices screaming in his ear to just run away to the caves of the wilderness. Now, what's really fascinating here is how the original language deepens this whole reality. The Hebrew word for trust here is hasiti, which means taking shelter or making Yahweh your protective fortress. Because David is so deeply anchored in the character and the statutes of Elohim, he's actually highly offended at the idea of fluttering away like some defenseless bird. His entire life is built inside the fortress of the Almighty.
The advisors, however, they're pointing to a very real danger. As the text says, open quote, "For look, the wicked bend their bow, they make ready their arrow on the string, that they may shoot secretly at the upright in heart," close quote. See, the lawless, they don't fight fair. They operate in the dark, right in the shadows, using slander and hidden traps to specifically target those of us who are keeping the Torah with clean motives. It's a calculated ambush. And that leads right into this devastating, cynical question presented to David. Open quote, "If the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do?" Close quote. Just let that linger for a second. Let the sheer weight of societal collapse fully sink in. It's a question so many Torah-keeping believers are asking today, right? As we watch the rapid decay of biblical values in our modern culture. When we look at this word foundations, or shatot in Hebrew, we're talking about the basic, structural pillars of societal justice, marital sanctity, and obedience to Elohim's word. When these pillars are intentionally dismantled by corrupt leadership or a completely lawless government, fleshly wisdom screams at us to just give up on the community. It tells us the game is over and it's time to hide. Section 2. The Cosmic Control Room. Let's see how this builds into the ultimate solution. David is about to absolutely shatter the panic of his advisors by shifting his eyes away from the earthly chaos and looking straight into ultimate reality. Listen to the absolute authority in David's realization. Open quote, "Yahweh is in his holy temple. Yahweh's throne is in heaven. His eyes behold, his eyelids test the sons of men." Close quote. Let the earthly courts fail, because Yahweh is not pacing back and forth in anxiety up there. His administrative headquarters are completely uncompromised. He maintains microscopic, unblinking surveillance over all human conduct. Think of the imagery of narrowing your eyelids to focus with extreme precision. He literally doesn't miss a single thing. And this perfectly matches the vision given to the prophet Isaiah during his own time of intense political crisis. Isaiah recorded, open quote, "I saw the Lord sitting on a throne, high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple," close quote. Even when the earthly foundations shake, the heavenly throne remains high, lifted up, and absolutely unshaken. This brilliantly illustrates the critical contrast we find in Psalm 11:5. We see that Yahweh tests the righteous. This is a process of refinement, right? But we also see his posture toward the wicked and violent. His soul hates them. This separates the purposeful friction that believers experience from Elohim's total, unyielding rejection of lawless lifestyles. He is absolutely not neutral. We have to remember that this concept of divine testing is anchored squarely in the historical framework of the Torah. Remember why Yahweh led Israel through the wilderness? As Deuteronomy reminds us, open quote, "to humble you and test you to know what was in your heart, whether you would keep his commandments or not," close quote.
The crucible has a purpose. Which brings us to umuna, faithfulness. When you're facing pressure, persecution, or maybe financial hardships simply for keeping the Sabbath or holding to the dietary laws, remember this. It's not because Yahweh has abandoned you. No way. He is using the friction of a lawless world to test, refine, and prove your umuna.
Section 3. Rainfall of divine judgment.
So the crucial point is this. Those secret snipers operating in the dark, laying traps for the righteous, they will not escape the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court of Heaven. The psalmist outlines a terrifying, historical destiny awaiting those who systematically abuse Yahweh's creation. He writes, open quote, "Upon the wicked he will rain coals. Fire and brimstone and a burning wind shall be the portion of their cup." Close quote. This is a cup full of a scorching, parching wind, a complete reversal of the refreshing waters of life given to those who guard the Torah.
Now, for anyone trained in the Torah, that explicit imagery of fire and brimstone immediately activates our memory. We know exactly what happens when societies reject Yahweh's laws of hospitality and moral purity. Genesis tells us, open quote, "Then Yahweh rained brimstone and fire on Sodom and Gomorrah from Yahweh out of the heavens." Close quote. This was a localized, geographic demonstration of his ultimate, unalterable judicial power.
Section 4. Reward of the upright. We've got to contrast that burning wind reserved for the lawless with the unalterable character of our king. Our king cannot look at lawlessness and call it good. And here we find the highest blessing available for the person who refuses to panic and maintains their covenant integrity. Open quote, "For Yahweh is righteous. He loves righteousness. His countenance beholds the upright." Close quote. Notice that he loves tzedakot. This isn't just some passive belief system. Tzedakot means concrete, active deeds of justice and alignment with covenant instructions. Yahweh actively loves it when we walk out his commands in the real world, especially when it's difficult to do so. And when we do that, we experience the definitive fulfillment of the Aaronic blessing that was commanded in the Torah. Open quote, "Yahweh make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace." Close quote. To have the face of Yahweh look upon you with favor, that is the ultimate vindication. Section 5. Ultimate fulfillment in Yeshua. As we wrap up this explainer, we really have to look at how this entire journey of standing firm and enduring traps is perfectly realized in the ultimate example of our Messiah, Yahshua. When Yahshua stood before the corrupted legal and spiritual foundations of his day, well-meaning followers might have wanted him to flee. But Yahshua didn't flee like a bird to the mountains to escape the cross. He trusted the heavenly throne, was proven entirely without sin in the crucible of suffering, and entered the immediate presence of the Father. As it's written in Acts, open quote, "Whom heaven must receive until the times of restoration of all things, which Elohim has spoken by the mouth of all his holy prophets since the world began." Close quote. Yahshua stands as our perfect blueprint. So let's summarize these 3 definitive operational directives for the modern believer. Keep these in mind when the pillars start to shake. Number 1, Yahweh actively rules from his unshakable throne. He hasn't abdicated. Number 2, cultural pressures are divine tests to purify your faithfulness. And number 3, the lawless traps you face have unalterable historical boundaries of judgment. I want to leave you with this really provocative reflection. When the structural pillars of society crumble, are you packing your bags in panic, or are you firmly planting your feet on the solid rock of the Torah? Don't listen to the voice of cowardice. Stand your ground, walk in uprightness of heart, and live with the absolute, unshakable certainty that the eyes of your Creator are looking directly upon you with favor. Keep standing firm.